What's up, everybody? My name is Derek Colman-Brusa, and I'm staying home.
You are Locked On Huskies, your daily podcast on the Washington Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back in to another edition of the Locked On Huskies podcast. I'm Roman Tomashoff. That's Derek Colman-Brusa, Washington's latest commit, four-star edge rusher from Kennedy Catholic here in Burien, Washington. Thank you for making this your first watch or first listen of the day, as we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKDOWNCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Now, just a quick reminder to all the everydays out there, wherever you get this podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, make sure you click that like button, click the little bell so you never miss when we post a new video, and make sure you subscribe as well. We got so much fun stuff coming for you throughout the offseason, like interviews with Derek here. This is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to talk about Washington's 2026 recruiting class, his relationship with a couple other prospects, and who else he might want to come join Washington and this Jedd Fisch recruiting class in 2026. We're going to talk a little bit about development, on-field sort of stuff. It's going to be a blast. But Derek, you made your commitment last Sunday on May the 4th. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so I really appreciated that. Yeah. But let's go through your decision a little bit. Just tell everybody out there why you wanted to stay home.
Yeah, 100%. First of all, this was a really difficult decision for me. I absolutely love Oregon and Ohio State, but, I really felt that Washington had more things to offer, just being a local Washington native, growing up, I've always wanted to play for the Huskies, right? It's always been a dream of mine, you know what I mean? And so just kind of having that and, yeah, just being a local guy, right, to having the alumni and all that good stuff. So, and I'm just couldn't be more excited to play.
So you talk about having more to offer. You mentioned the alumni, just the background. Obviously, you get to stay home, play with not just your brother, but you just have your family there every single week. When you say more, do you mean just like the facilities and just in terms of what Washington has to offer in terms of a long-term plan, things like that as well?
Exactly. Just that post game, because I feel all these programs, they're going to have the best facilities, right? They're going to have the best weight rooms, right? But it's the people that make it different, and so I feel that the people at Washington are going to be a difference maker for me.
That's a really big part of this, where I feel like we've heard a lot about that, where obviously Jedd Fisch isn't recruiting me. He's recruiting guys like you. And a big part of what a lot of them have told us here on this show, and just other, players and parents that I've gotten a chance to talk to on the recruiting cycle, is they're selling that family culture and that family environment. And now for you, again, not only getting a chance to play with your brother, but just seeing what that's like it going into year two. What are some of the things about that resonate with you?
Yeah, I just absolutely love the way he recruited me. You know what I mean? He told me positives and negatives about his program, and he said, you know what, you let us know if you have any questions. And I, was very transparent, very honest. Just overall had a very, very, great environment. And I know there's great people going there, and he's always been about the team. He does things for the team, not about himself. And so, it just kind of creates that cohesiveness, and he's a team player for sure.
So I'm curious, we've heard a lot about the positives. We've seen a lot about the positives, but you said the negatives there as well. What were some of those negatives that he might have laid out for you?
Jedd Fisch?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think just every program has its positives and negatives, I don't think I could have gone wrong no matter where I went. I think that I would have learned a lot about myself going towards a different school, just having to restart, having to get to know new people and everything. But, there was pros and cons to going no matter where I went. And so I just kind of had to weigh that out and chose where was right for me.
So you got a chance to take a visit for the spring game. Obviously, you made your commitment then. Can you just kind of take us through that, where we've seen a couple different articles and interviews that you've done, but now that you get a chance to just kind of put a face to that and just let everyone hear your voice with that. Take us through that decision.
Yeah. So I actually made my decision that weekend prior. And so I called Jedd Fisch that's Sunday, that weekend prior, and just told him, I said, I want to be a dog, and he was laying on me, and then I told him to keep a secret. And so I didn't really know exactly when I was going to announce. So my official visit originally was scheduled for that weekend. And so I was going to have them make a banner, and then I was going to post that weekend. But since I rescheduled my visit, right, I just wanted to go tell him. I just felt like it was a beautiful moment, and I knew I would be foolish to have that be missed. And so, but I told the coaching staff after the spring game, and it was just electric. They were just jumping all over me, giving me hugs. It was just a really beautiful moment for sure.
Because we got a chance to just kind of walk around down on the field before the spring game, and just that environment was really cool. Not only seeing you and your brother interact with everybody else, but Coach is there. He's taking that in. Michael Penix is there. I saw you got a chance to meet with him and chat with him for a little bit. So you hadn't told anybody at that point in time, correct?
Correct.
So what's that like? Especially, I know you'd interacted with Michael previously and everything. But you're standing there with one of the legends of the program, and it's, hey, I'm going to join you, but I can't say anything right now.
Yeah, it was. It's really, really hard to hold back from sharing great news. You know what I mean? And so, but I knew I wanted it to be a surprise, and I knew how I wanted it to look like, and couldn't be more grateful with how it kind of filled out.
So let's jump back to, you said it was obviously a really hard decision because Oregon and Ohio State, they have a lot of really good things to offer. What were some of the most enticing things about both of those schools?
It was the people. It was the people for me. This whole recruiting process, kind of like what I was saying earlier, never really looked for who had the nicest facilities, right? Who had the best whatnot. It was just the people. And I love the people at Oregon. I really felt at home at Oregon. Just the way they cared for me, their attention to detail. Loved Coach Lanning, Coach Tosh, and Coach Cam, my position coach. Just really, really phenomenal people. And same thing with Ohio State. I was still kind of getting to learn a little bit. Just they had their defensive coordinator changed, Matt Patricia. Really, really great guy. Love that guy. And this was a really difficult decision, because there's all the great people all around. And so I just had to go with kind of what fit me best with everything.
So I'm glad you mentioned Matt Patricia, where this is just more of a personal side note. All the everydayers know I'm a huge Patriots fan. I grew up a huge Patriots fan. And as just somebody who grew up watching football and everything, seeing a guy like that, where I'm sure, talking to Steve Belichick at Washington when he was there might give you a similar feeling. But what's it like seeing some of these NFL coaches come down to the college level? And it's, hey, I used to, watch you on TV on Sunday when you were like head coach of the Lions or whatever. Yeah. And now you're recruiting me to come join you. Is it just kind of a weird feeling to a certain extent?
100%. 100%. In some way it's been a breath of fresh air just to get to know him and his passion. I asked him for their spring game. I got to go to their spring game in Columbus. I asked him, why does one leave after winning the Super Bowl? Why would you leave at something so great to come to college, right? Although the Ohio State's got their thing going for them, but he looked at me and he got me on the shoulder and he said, I lost my why. And he said, my why was to develop and mentor the youth. And I thought that was really, really interesting. And so, but
no, that's really, really interesting because I feel like we're starting to see that more and more in college football. And it's something where even when we look at Washington staff, you've got a couple of ex-NFL guys. Obviously, Jedd Fisch was a play caller at the NFL level. And then Jimmy Doherty was rumored to have some NFL interest over the course of the offseason as well. And is that something that is obviously, getting the NFL is every high school football player's dream, right? What is it about this staff and the way that they were able to sell that plan that was just so that resonated so much with you?
Yeah. So I think now I guess we're in that point of college football where it's common to have someone, that's had NFL experience. And so, but I just really feel that I trust in what Jedd Fisch is putting down. You can start to see, the fruits of the labor that Jedd Fisch is, starting to build. And it was just really, there wasn't like a one person I was going for. It was more like a full staff people, just Ben Kramer, Coach Kaufusi, Ryan Walters, Coach Jedd Fisch. I trust in what he's doing. And, I think he's making something pretty special over there.
Derek, we're going to get more into your relationships with those guys and just what you're going to be doing with your development on the other side of the break. right after a message from our friends over at Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKDOWNCollege at monarchmoney.com, 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKDOWNCollege for half off your first year. So, Derek, one of the fun questions that I love to ask recruits, because I like to watch tape. I like to do different things like that. I played baseball in college, so I certainly don't understand what it's like to get out there on the field, but I like to just kind of dive in and look at what makes each player unique. And for you, I have my own opinions, but before we get into that, I want to just give you a chance to just tell all the everydayers out there who might not be a nerd like me and watch all kinds of film, what makes your game special and how you describe yourself as a player.
Yeah, I think it has to go down with my motor and my ability to wreak havoc for sure.
So I really like where you're going with that, because I think one of my favorite things about watching your film is the power that you play with, where you've got just a really big frame that'll help you play all over the defensive line, at least in my opinion, on the next level. I certainly have a couple questions about that as well. But one of the things that I just really like when I watch you is that motor and the way you're able to, you never give up on a play. Even when run players are going away from you, you still find ways to just make sure that you're in on it, whether it be, just trying to chase somebody down or making a tackle, whatever it might be. Where did this motor come from?
I guess it just goes back to my passion for the game. I've played all kinds of sports. I've played water polo, soccer. I've wrestled before. I've, done the whole nine. But I think when it comes to football, it's like I'm not breathing the same unless I've got the pads on. You know what I mean? I'm just, itching and just counting down the days when I can put those pads on, and I've just fallen in love with the process of, just becoming great at the sport. And, it's gonna be hard to say no to football one day. But it just comes back to my passion and just how much I love the sport.
I feel like a lot of that really does shine through just in your game and everything. And as I watch you, it's really fun to see you, like I said, the power that you play with and the way that you're able to just win with that so consistently. As you kind of get into your senior season, I've seen a couple interviews where you said your goal is for 20 sacks this coming year.
Correct.
What are some of the things that over the summer you might be working on to achieve that goal?
Yeah, so I think definitely I need to improve in my run game. I think just in the league I play in, I'm just, naturally a lot bigger and stronger than these guys are. I can just kind of throw them around and make the play, right? But I just feel I need to be more technically disciplined and technically sound with that, my run game for sure. Couldn't be excited to get to work and get after it.
So one thing I'm glad you put it that way, because one thing I feel like that not only stands out when you throw on film of you, but your brother as well, is it's very clear you guys have worked at this together for such a long time. What's it like having an older brother who now, you're obviously going to get a chance to play with at the college level, but somebody that you can just train with on a day in, day out basis. And it's not like, you need to call somebody up and say, hey, come drive 20 minutes and let's go work out or anything. It's, it's right there in your house.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think me and my brother are number one motivators and number one supporters. We've always done everything together. We've always been super close together, right? We've always eaten, done homework together, all that. So, it's just a true blessing to have someone so close go through everything with you. And so it makes it a lot easier for sure.
Oh, I'm sure it does on that front. And then I think about that on the field as well, where obviously Lowen's coming in to play offensive line and you're going to play on the defensive line. Is that something else that helps you guys motivate each other when you're doing some of these workouts and going through some of those drills? It's you get that chance to compete against one another all the time.
100%. Just kind of going back to what I said earlier. In our league, there's not that many players that are, our size, right? And so just being able to practice up against them every day. It's good on good every time. It gets competitive, but it's always love at the end of the day. And so I'm just super grateful for that. I'm excited to keep that tradition going.
Absolutely. And so one thing that I'm really curious about on that front with, your brother playing offensive line is we've seen you do that for Kennedy Catholic as well at different points in time. What have you learned from playing the offensive line that you want to carry over with your game to the defensive line where it's, maybe I've seen some defensive linemen do this, or when I'm playing offensive line, I know that this is the technique that coaches like to teach, and this is how I can take advantage of that, just moving forward.
Yeah, I just feel just understanding the counter to certain things. Now just playing the offensive line for a little bit, I know what to look for. I know what they're trying to do, so I can counter that. Just the game inside the game. And so just having that is just such a amazing opportunity just to understand both sides and and increase my football IQ as well.
Oh, absolutely. So one thing, I'm really curious about just Jedd Fisch's whole development process, because one thing that I noticed a lot in watching a lot of players that he had committed and then signed for the 2025 class was watching them from their junior to their senior year. You saw them take very specific strides in, depending on what player and what position, which just shows that this coaching staff on and off the field, whether it be, Senior Director of Player Personnel, Matt Doherty, or in this case, your position coach, Jason Kaufusi, have put very specific plans in place for things that they want their commits to work on before they get on campus. And I'm curious where I'm sure that's still an ongoing process for you, but what are some of those other things that maybe these coaches and, years of watching your film have said, hey, these are things that we want to see from you as well as, you talk about the run game too.
Yeah, and so these are still ongoing conversations, but definitely in my run game, and I think just improving my pad level overall.
Okay, so that's something I'm really interested in, because I mentioned just the way that you play with power and everything, and you talk about being so much bigger and stronger than a lot of other guys that play in the Metro League. Is that something where, as you try to refine a whole bunch of different pass rush moves, you find it a little bit more difficult because you're just so used to winning in one particular way?
100%. 100%. I could, this isn't saying this out of a cocky way or anything, but I could just bull rush and pretty much win all the reps, but that's not going to get me better, right? When I go into this next level of college football, that's not going to work, right? So I need to expand my toolbox and, prioritize technique over just brute strength.
So one thing that I found really interesting when you talked to my good buddy Andy Yamashita over the Seattle Times was you talked about reaching out to players around different programs to help you make your decision. Now, you mentioned from UW, Isaiah Ward and Zach Durfee. Can you tell me a little bit about those conversations and what you might have taken away from just chatting with both of those guys?
Yeah, so I got to talk with those guys in person for a couple times now. It's just they trust the process and they trust what Kaufusi's building. And I got to really talk with Jacob Lane because he was there with the old staff. And so I kind of got to tell him, what do you like, what the differences, and he said it's just been nothing but great things.
That's really good to know, because I feel like that's been a really nice return from this coaching staff is the culture they've been able to create off the field. And, as you mentioned a little bit earlier, that was something that played into your decision. But one guy who wasn't there last year is Ryan Walters. And one thing that I told you about this a little bit before, just again, how much I am just a nerd with certain things, especially regarding the NFL draft, is you got a chance to talk to Nic Scourton, who just got selected in the second round by the Carolina Panthers. And he's somebody who played for Ryan Walters in 2023, led the Big Ten in sacks that year with 10, I believe it was. And when I saw that conversation, I went back and watched his film and I said, oh, I think you guys play a lot alike, which I was really interested in personally. But the fact that you got to talk to him about playing in Ryan Walters' defense, what was that conversation like?
Yeah, so he reached out to me, and then I reached out back to him, and he just said just how Walters' scheme just, allows for versatility, and it just portrays versatility all across the board.
So is that a conversation that you've obviously, like you said, they're still ongoing a little bit, but is that something where, as you've looked into some of these conversations that you might have had with Coach Walters already, where that there's one particular plan in place for you, where you've seen plenty of practices from him this spring and just kind of what that defense is going to look like? What does that plan look like for you at this point in time?
100%. So they kind of see me as that outside backer edge, but with my frame, they can also see me sliding inside at times.
That's one of the reasons where when you said Nic Scourton, I was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
this is really interesting because he does that a lot where he is that wide 9 outside backer.
Mm-hmm.
And then on some of those third and mid, third and long pass rush scenarios, he moves just like it's still playing a stand-up spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's playing way more on the interior. Is that something you enjoy, or is there anything about that just kind of piques your interest when you get to just play a different position like that?
Yeah, so I just see myself as a all-around versatile player. I can play anywhere from the 0 to the wide 9, and I'm just looking forward to playing, and I can play anywhere.
So you mentioned the 0. I feel like that's a lot of fun when we just see guys of just your skill set lining up at that position. Is there just something a little different about just being able to take on a center compared to what you might normally see in a tackle?
Yeah, I think that centers are kind of going to have that more shorter, stockier build, just position-wise. And I think it just kind of portrays different pass rush moves, kind of. So just kind of something thrown in the toolbox for sure.
So you mentioned the bull rush. Is there any one move that you like to go to right now? Obviously, feels like we're not giving away a state secret at this point in time for anybody who's watched your film. But is there any one move that right now you feel more comfortable going to?
I love the double hand swipe. I think it's just always clicked with me ever since I've been training. So
I like that a lot. So Derek, we're gonna dive into just recruiting because you've been a big part of what looks like it's going to be a really strong 2026 class.
Mm-hmm.
So Derek, about a week before you committed, we saw Cody Green, obviously, a former Washingtonian himself, still obviously is one, go down to Mater Dei for his junior year. He flips from Oregon to Washington. Is that something that you saw that, and did that, I don't want to say make you reconsider what you were thinking at the time, but was that something where you noticed that and said, oh, if he wants to go play at Washington, I'm really interested in going and finding a way to team up with that guy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there definitely was some thoughts about that, just kind of why would someone flip, when you're going to a great program. But I got a chance to reach out to him, kind of talk to him, and he said it just felt like family. It just felt like home. And he has a brother as well over there. And so just kind of having that reality, and so just all great things.
When you go and have you gotten a chance to watch any of his film that he's put up down at Mater Dei, or have you competed with him at all at any point in your career?
I've not gotten the chance to, but I'm looking forward to it.
I was going to say, because that was going to be my next question is when you just see a guy like that, that's not just that highly rated, but you just think about what kind of player and what kind of athlete he is just at the high school level, and especially in that league down in Southern California in the Trinity League. Is that something that just kind of piques your interest where, oh, hey, I'm going to get a chance to practice against this guy next year?
Yeah, 100%. It's kind of like what I was saying earlier, it's good on good, right? And so I'm just looking forward to it for sure.
Oh, absolutely. So let's talk about good on good. We look at this 26 class. Obviously, you and Cody are the two highest rated members in that class right now, but we just kind of look down the line. We look in state. We look at some of these other guys in the West Coast. Are there any names that stand out to you that maybe, now since you've committed, you've gotten on the phone with and said, hey, let's do this?
Yeah. I've reached out to a couple of guys. Can't remember the names off the spot, but, just kind of local Washington guys is kind of what we're going for. Just Foss Ale and David Schwartzel over at O'Day. And so just keeping the Washington talent in Washington.
So you were on campus for junior day, because there are a couple other guys that I look at in this class where I know they were on campus for junior day as well, like Landon Barnes from Texas, Anthony Jones, Kari Wilder. Are those guys you've just gotten a chance to know a little bit, just being on a visit at the same time as them either?
Yeah. And so I've reached out to a couple of those guys, just kind of starting to grow that relationship, just you can't, it's never too early.
So the pitch is obviously going to be a little different for you, being a hometown guy compared to, let's just say Kari Wilder is one of the California guys, because he's from not my neck of the woods down there. But what does the pitch from you look like? Is it, hey, it's two great players, we know we can just form a really nice defensive line? Is it the family atmosphere? What's kind of going to be your recruiting pitch as somebody who's just now part of this class?
Yeah, I think it's just kind of a all around deal. I think it's the coaching staff, speaks for itself. And, nowadays people, all of them want to play in the NFL, all of them want to be developed, right? But I truly feel that Washington has everything I need, to get there. And so just kind of having that and just the all around great staff.
So your official visit is going to be coming up at the end of the month now on May 30th.
Yep.
What are just some of the things that you're going to be looking forward to just getting to learn about, or maybe do some recruiting over that weekend as well?
Yeah. So just, having a great time for sure, confirming my decision. And, I'm really looking forward to getting a chance with talking with the players. I think that's a huge part of this aspect. I've developed a great relationship. I'm looking forward to continuing that. And also getting to talk with the other recruits that, Jedd Fisch is recruiting, just getting a chance to tell them my experience and what I liked, what I didn't like. And I've always been a super transparent guy. And so just being able to have that open conversation, I think would be great.
Now, I'm curious, when your brother went on his official visit last year, did you get a chance to accompany him on that as well?
I did. Mm-hmm.
What were some of the aspects of just the official visit that are obviously just a little bit different from what you might experience on an unofficial, whether it be, going on a yacht, like I think they did, or the big seafood dinner they usually do? Is there any aspect of that you're looking forward to just also?
Yeah. So I'm not, I'm still figuring out kind of what the plan is with everything, but I know they're going to have a great trip for me and great plan for me. So I'm just, couldn't be more excited.
So I kind of like where you're going with that, where you dodged the seafood question, because I'm not a big seafood eater myself. Is that one of your preferences, or?
I could put down some seafood. I like shrimp, fish, crab. I like all that good stuff. So
because I've seen some of those posts that the coaches have put on social media, they really do it up for that, and that's why I'm curious, because it just seems like just a big party that entire weekend, where obviously there's a lot of learning and there's a lot of just other conversations that can be held in terms of what the plan is for you moving forward. But I feel like just some of those other aspects are what can just really just put it over the top when I think about what this coaching staff wants to do off the field. And obviously, since you've already gotten a chance to experience that a little bit with your brother, I feel like that might be a lot of fun for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. I think just that off the ball, that family aspect that they're creating. Coach Kaufusi, the defensive line coach, would always send me videos of taking the guys to go bowling, taking them to go Nerf gun wars or golf simulator, whatever it is. Just the family aspect that they're creating over there, and I just couldn't be more excited to join them.
Now I'm curious, because all of that does sound like a lot of fun as well. Is there any one of those where you're like, okay, yeah, maybe I should commit to Washington for the next bowling outing or a Nerf gun fight or anything like that?
Yeah, I'll have to reach out for sure. But he does great things for their players all around for sure.
So let's get to know you a little bit more off the field. Or what are some of the things that you enjoy just outside of the football field? Or are there any particular things that you just find yourself doing on a Saturday afternoon when you have nothing else to do?
Yeah, so I usually my schedule's pretty packed with homework and everything, but I enjoy playing music. I am self-taught with a guitar. I'm self-taught with a ukulele, and I really enjoy learning things and getting really good at them. So I just was learning card tricks, magic cards. So just magic card tricks, and I love just learning new things and becoming great at them.
That's awesome. Are there any just just other hobbies that you just kind of looked at and said, since you like learning things, that you haven't gotten a chance to pick up yet, that maybe when you get a little bit more free time on your hands that you want to check out maybe over the summer?
Yeah, I think playing the piano would be pretty cool. For sure.
That's a whole lot of just impressive music talent right there.
Mm-hmm.
Like I played the guitar for a little bit, and I was like, yeah, I don't think I can keep going. The guitar, the ukulele, and the piano, that's really impressive. So are there, you mentioned you played other sports, soccer, water polo, you said wrestling as well. Were there any one of those that you just really just enjoyed for one reason or another in just a different way than football?
Yeah. I think that award would go to wrestling. I have a really, really phenomenal staff over there at Kennedy Catholic, my high school, and created some great memories and amazing people I've got to meet. And I think I'm so grateful because my sparring partner was actually he was an ex-wrestler at Kennedy, and he just finished his career at South Dakota State. And so he actually came back, and he was my sparring partner. And so I just got to develop a great relationship with him and, learned a lot. And I think it definitely transfers over into the sport of football. And so I'm just excited to see how it all goes. So.
All right. So I got two questions left for you here. One,
okay.
you put up there that I'm really curious about, because one thing that I feel like we hear about a lot come NFL draft time is guys with multi-sport backgrounds. And a lot of times it's, this offensive or defensive lineman was a wrestler growing up. How have you just taken some things from your wrestling background and helped translate them to the football field?
Yeah, I think just understanding how the human body works and how it moves, and just understanding leverage. And I think it's funny how similar the moves actually are. And so I'm getting training, but just in a different way.
That's really cool. All right, last one. This one is really important for me personally because I'm a big food guy.
Oh yeah.
You can only pick one place in Seattle. You can chat about whoever. One restaurant that you'd have to eat at, consider your favorite. Where are you going?
One restaurant. I think that's gonna have to go to Wingstop for sure.
Wingstop.
For sure.
Okay.
Me and my brother, after every game, we grab a couple guys from the team. It's tradition. So after every game, we go and we crash Wingstop, and so we just get a big old tub of wings and put it down.
What's the go-to sauce though? That's a very important part of this as well.
Yeah, I get the ranch. I'm a big ranch guy, so I get the Hawaiian barbecue, and they get a ranch to the side.
That's solid. Highly recommend the mango habanero as well. I've gotten to be a big fan of that one. Put that one on the ranch. Oh yeah, you're having a good time there. Derek, sure. This has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to all everydayers tuning in. We really do appreciate your support. We got so much more fun stuff coming for you throughout the off season. So please make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Whether that's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. We're there. We're everywhere. We're updating this channel with new content every single day. So please make sure you click that like button, click that little bell so you never miss when we post a new video. Any questions, comments, concerns, drop them right down below in the comment section. And if you're audio only, please give us a 5-star review, as it does help us out a lot. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you on Tuesday.